Okay, I'll start with an opening statement just so I can get this out in the open. I'm sure you have a lot of questions according to that deal with Shannon Brooks. So I wish I had more information for all of you at this particular time. I don't have a lot, but I can say that individuals are still collecting a lot of information, and that's why I'm not able to just say a lot of different things. I do know this, though. No charges were ever filed. Nobody was injured between Shannon and his male roommate. Shannon is back with our team. His status is evolving each day. And some of you are probably going to ask if was he cleared or not. Our plan all along was to get him back going into things and get him ready for the Nebraska game on Sunday. Obviously, those things, as we continue to move forward, are evolving and changing. So, but that's about as much as I can tell you, about as much as I know. So with that, I will open it up for some questions.
Are you waiting until the city attorney's office concludes their investigation before you go forward?
Well, I think a lot of people are collecting information, and that's what I've been told. You know, one thing we're always going to do is make sure that we have every bit of information we possibly can before we make decisions. And Shannon understands that, and I know our administration understands that as well.
Will the final decision be yours, or does Mark Cole have to sign off on that?
Mark and I will make decisions collectively. I have a tremendous relationship with him. I hope he feels the same way about me, and about making the next step and making those choices. We're both going to do that together. And but again, as I continue to reiterate that there was no charges filed, okay, and nobody was injured between a male and a male, and so. I just want to make sure I continue to reiterate that.
When would you decide if he'd go to Nebraska and play?
Again, I don't know when. I don't know when I would decide that. As more information comes in, then I'll make the decision. I wish I had a better answer for you. I really do. It's just without all the information at this point, it's hard for me to be able to say, yes, I can. I'll tell you by this date. I don't know that.
Is there a cutoff point this week where you'd have to know?
Not necessarily. I mean, there comes some time if a kid doesn't practice, you're not going to play him in games.
You talked to Shannon personally since?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's back on the team. And he did not practice today, though. If you're asking that, he did not practice.
Is that the plan going forward for him not to practice until you come to a?
Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm not going to do anything until all the information is in. And we can make a decision on that.
PJ, looking back at the film, did your offensive line turn a corner?
Here's the thing about like the turn. That's a great question, Chip. No, I loved your question because you used a word called the turn, right? When we beat Fresno State, I told them you got into the turn because you defeated a culture. Fresno State's a culture, right? And that's a very, very strong culture. And they've done a lot of things over a lot of years. And everybody knows when you say Fresno State, what type of team you're going to have. I said, you got into the turn. Now, the hardest part is going out of the turn. Right? Into the turn is one thing, right? And when you're talking about NASCAR and you're talking about race car driving, not many crashes happen into the turn. It's as you start to go around it and start to come out of it, that's the hardest part to finish that curve. I think our offensive line has made huge strides. And especially you got two freshmen on the right side. I think Daniel has provided a little spark. That does not mean Sam Schluter is not going to continue to play at some point. Daniel's got to continue to get better. If you watch the film, there's times you're like, wow, this guy's dominating. And then you times like he looks like he's lost, looking around, looking for Coach Callahan. But that's what happens when you play a true freshman lineman. But again, I've said before, if he's going to make a mistake, at least you got to run like literally around him to go get somebody. You can't go through that man, right? And that had helped us a little bit against them. I would say that. I mean, you run for 170-some yards against Ohio State, and you have the freshman Big Ten Player of the Week and Mohamed Ibrahim, and everybody's like, who? That's a good thing. When you're starting to see all these freshmen and all these young players step up and become these recognizable players, and you start looking at them and they're thinking they're all young freshmen. So I think we took a step. Do I think we're out of the turn? No. I think our offensive line is in the turn, and maybe we went 10 feet farther into the turn, but we have a long way to go in developing that from what my expectations are of a Big Ten offensive line consistently winning at a high level.
How excited do you get, Coach, when you look at Daniel and Blaze on the right side and what might be?
The question was, how excited do I get when I kind of look at what might be? I get way more excited than probably all of you. You see now. You see now. You want this. You want that. Why aren't we doing this? Listen. All the results that happen in this program are on me, 100%, because I make every decision. I make a decision to get younger before we get older, before we get more experience. Now, some decisions you're forced into, but those are decisions that I've made. I haven't made decisions to bring in 20 junior college players. I've made a decision to get younger. I've explained that to our team. When you have 7 scholarship seniors right now that are playing for us, you have to explain that to them. But you also have to show we're doing everything we can to win now. And that's what I've shown by playing Daniel Fa'alele, And, so as we continue to grow, I see where we're going. That's what I'm excited about. And I get excited for tomorrow. And I know that whatever everybody thinks and has their own opinion, I know where this will be one day. Tomorrow is a big step for that to happen. Every day matters with this team. Everything they do matters. Everything they do in their life has to matter. And academically, athletically, socially, spiritually. It matters to me if you're 10 minutes late to your class. That matters to me because that should matter to you. It should matter that you're in the first 2 rows. It should matter you talk to your professors. It should matter that you have a relationship. It should matter that you're walking down the street and actually have conversations with people instead of just have your headphones on, your hood on, and not talking to anybody. It matters that that you do the right things on and off the field. It matters that you believe in a culture that's way bigger than yourself. Like all those things matter, and I can see it, and I can see where it's going, and I can see our team growing. This team is so exciting to coach. Today was unbelievable. I even told Garrett at practice time, I'm having so much fun at practice. This is a great group to coach. Now, because you have a lot of coaching to do. Sometimes you're like, all right, as you have a team, like my 4th year at Western Michigan, it was like, what do I do? I mean, they don't really need me. They're looking at me like, all right, coach, we got it. And this team needs to be coached. So we're coaching, and it's a lot of fun.
What is the next step for the O-line?
I think as we continue to go, there's no number, there's no result that you say, well, this is. I just think it's, you look at, okay, how many mistakes are we making? What are the mistakes? Is it a schematic issue? Is it a coaching issue? Is it a personnel issue? Everything that I look at, I break it down into 3 categories. So when I watch film, that's what I'm looking at. Okay, is it a schematic issue that we're having an issue with? Is it we're not teaching at a level that we need to teach at as coaches? Or is it a personnel issue? Every play is evaluated that way with me. And I think as we continue to go, our personnel is going to grow. They're going to play together a lot more. I want to be able to see them execute our offense at a higher level. I want to see them be able to play up to their capability. And they're doing that. Now, as they play up to their capability, a lot of them are really young, so their capability just keeps going higher and higher and higher. Like a guy like Blaze Andrews is a completely different kid than he was last year. Completely different person. And that's what I want to see, the growth of him as an individual. And that'll eventually trickle down onto the field of him being able to play better. Remember, we're evaluating and we're looking at so many kids that are doing something for the first time, way ahead of when they're supposed to be doing it. It's like having a 9-year-old get keys to your car and say, we're going to go get our driver's license. You look at them like, But that's the position we're in. And they are playing at a high level up to their capabilities. And our older guys are leading them and making our team even more connected. So tremendous practice today. And I just want to keep seeing growth.
How did you and your coaching staff come across Mohammed in the recruiting process?
Yeah, well, that was a whirlwind. We get done with the Cotton Bowl, all of a sudden we're here, and you slingshot into recruiting. You realize you take a quick synopsis of the roster of what's happened. You look at the 14, 15, 16, 7, or 13, 14, 15, 16 recruiting classes. So you get a printout and you say, what did they have? What's here? What is left? What's the depth look like? And then you do everything you can with no information of what the team is, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. You watch film, and then you just make guesses. And then you got to at least bring some people in because you know a lot of people from that last year were leaving, a lot of seniors. It was a senior-dominated led team. And you're looking at it going, okay, well, we're going to need some running backs because you always need that. And you want to do everything you can to – we had prior relationship with Mohammed, recruiting him. And so, we have a lot of connections out in the D.C., Baltimore, Maryland area. And, he decided to come play here. I mean, we knew him prior to being here, but it happened really fast, just like everything when we came here, where you have 2.5 to 3 weeks to put a whole class together. And, especially when you become a head coach at a new place, and it was such a whirlwind that a lot of kids left, a lot of kids stayed committed. I remember I had kids telling me they were committed when they weren't. We had all types of different things. And it was like, well, who do we believe? Who do we not believe? How many scholarships do we have? Who's in state? Who's out of state? But Mohamed Ibrahim, I'm just very thankful he's here. He should really be our 3rd, 4th running back this year. And just like him and Bryce, I mean, they're both 1 and 2, and they're both freshmen, so.
PJ, has Coughlin added some pass rushing moves, or is it still kind of just speed and hustle with him?
No, I think his game he's chiseling his game. I think Marcus West has helped. Remember, we wanted to put more pressure on the quarterback this year, and as a coach, you got to do everything you can to be able to do that without bringing 25 kids in to fix it. And you got to be able to do it with coaching. You've got to do it with development. You've got to do it through recruiting. I think, when you see a guy like Boye Mafe get some snaps, he's helping on the other side because I think he elevates our talent level along with Winston. But Carter Coughlin is somebody who works so hard at his craft. He's always after practice, working on his game. Marcus West, our rush specialist, that's what he is, pass rush specialist. Let's get more pass rush. His moves, his footwork, his hands, his leverage, his moves that he makes are way better. Why? Because he works on them every day. He's been working on them every day since January. And I think he's starting to truly put a lot of fear in offensive lines or tackles' minds. You see a lot more chips, a lot more double teams, a lot more of people making sure that they know where he is. But that's where the other guys got to be able to step in and step up. And even Big O had a really good game, the redshirt freshman, Assezi, Boye Mafe. You're talking about other freshmen that are helping Carter be able to get free.
Just from a practical standpoint, how does a guy who gives up that much weight on a tackle, does it have to always be speed, or is it different kinds of moves?
Well, Carter is surprisingly strong. But when you look at Carter Coughlin, he looks like an outside backer, right, in a 3-4 scheme. I mean, he's slender. He's not like really thick in the back, where you're sitting there going, man, this guy's just really, really strong. You can just easily see it. He plays at such a high level. He's got a necktie mentality. His how meter is through the roof. He loves his life, and he loves the game. And that's what this culture is all about. He enjoys his teammates. He enjoys getting better. He enjoys the sweat. He enjoys the grind. He enjoys the failing. He enjoys the process. He's a perfect example of what our culture is about, what our program's about, and what being a Gopher is about. And he deserves a lot of that credit because, I can put a coach in front of him and I can divvy up more individual time, but he's still got to put the work in. And he's a perfect example for our young kids as they continue to watch. Who do I want to be like? Well, I would want to be like Carter Coughlin.
Significant change in his strength since last year?
I think he's a lot stronger. Yeah, absolutely. But again, as you look at him, he's not some huge defensive end, but he understands leverage. He understands pad level. He understands his moves. He understands his weaknesses. Part of being a really good football player, I think, is understanding your weaknesses, maybe even more than understanding your strengths. Because if you can hide your weaknesses and develop more strengths around that, you can be a really good player. And I think that's what he's done.
What have you noticed just from some of the young defensive linemen like Assezi and Boye Mafe in terms of their development?
Yeah, you're even going to see, I think, Jamal Teague here coming up, for a few games, being able to take advantage of the redshirt year. We're going to have to as we keep going forward. But I see a lot of guys growing up, and it's not just they're physically stronger. They're getting there. But the mental and emotional approach to practice, to their life, to their academics, to their future, it's becoming a lot more important. When you get freshmen, if you take your entire team, most of the time freshmen are the most immature, right? You all have children. Your youngest is probably the most immature. Maybe, right? That's the same thing with a football team. What we had to do this year was race to maturity. We had to get these young guys to grow up fast because there's, 32 of them on our two deep. That's just the way it is. And they have to grow up really fast. So a guy like Boye has grown up tremendously. We're talking about a young man who lost his mother earlier this year. And you've got to grow up fast. You've got to grow up really fast. And you're in the new place, new friends, change, and you don't have your support system like you used to. And you're playing, and all these expectations and all this pressure is put upon you. What these young men are doing is incredible to me. And we can talk about the results, and that's the bottom line. What they're doing is incredible. because I get to see them every day, and I get to see their development as men, and that's incredible to me. And he's a prime example of what's coming out. Jamal Teague, same thing. He's a true freshman. We're going to see him play. Big as says he, redshirt freshman. He's going to play. And he had a sack against Ohio State. And you're seeing these kids from everywhere, and you look at your program, and all you're seeing is, okay, freshman. If it wasn't Carter, who is it? Must be a freshman. But that's the position we're in. And as we continue to add in recruiting 2019 and 20, that's what we're elevating. We're racing to get to those guys being juniors and seniors. So you can finally have that where you're just playing juniors and seniors every year at some point, where some teams in our league that have that cultural sustainability are doing.
What's your impression
What
of?
can Brevin Spanford contribute here later on this year?
Well, I can't wait to play him. But again, he's a true freshman, so I'm expecting a lot because I like the way he plays. But we've got to be able to get him used to playing before next year. And it's so hard. The hardest thing as a head coach, in my opinion, is when you're talking about these young players, you're talking about these red shirts, and you're talking about playing them now. You're preparing them for the future, but Blake Cashman doesn't have the future after this year. Neither does Emmett Carpenter, Peyton Jordahl. They don't have next year. They have now. And that's why we talked about season 2. This is season 2. Season 1 was 3-3. That's over. We are 0-0. We've learned a lot in 6 games. We've grown up a lot. Now, what can we do? And again, springboarding off a championship team that we lost to, what can we do to one day become champions, whether it's bowl champions or whatever? We can still do things to send these seniors off on the right note and be able to play more freshmen that are going to help us do that. And I think our seniors have been very mature about that, of understanding that they know the position we're in. It's pretty obvious. It's not like they're looking around. And you're talking about 50-some% are freshmen. They're not looking around and seeing tons of juniors, tons of seniors, tons of sophomores and saying, why aren't you playing them? We're not doing, that's the position we were in. And so they're looking at it saying, we know that kid can help. Brevin Spanford is a kid that can do that. He's 6'7", he's 265 pounds, and he's getting better. Everything within my power to just hold him back, it's getting harder to do. But you look at some of the guys, Jake Paulson, freshman, playing better, right? Getting a lot better. Bryce Witham had a really good game last week. Coe is getting better. We're not where we need to be, but we're getting better, and that's what I want to see. And Brevin's going to be able to help that. But we want to be able to get him in there at some point. We just have to, again, evaluate when the right time is, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
What challenges did J.D. Spielman present to your team?
Everything. J.D. Spielman presents everything. He's fast, he's explosive, he's dynamic, he catches the ball well, he's got a great catch radius, he blocks, he plays hard. They do a lot of things with him. They move him all over the field. He's got a tremendous center of gravity. He creates separation. He's a tremendous football player. And it's not just him. It's Stanley Morgan. You've got him. You've got the quarterback, where he's an incredibly dynamic runner. They've got a huge running back who we played against, who can really, he's got speed, he's got power. Again, you cannot look at this team and look at their record. This team can easily be 5-1, 4-2, easily. They've lost on just like strange oddities. If I would tell you stories of how they lost when you're watching these games, you'd be like, no way. So you can't look at that. This team is averaging close to 500 yards of offense a game. And again, if you think just taking a pill or just hiring somebody flips it like that, that's not reality in 2018 with certain situations. And but they're a very, very dangerous offensive football team and defensively. They're front seven. They play a 3-4, and they are stout up front now, stout. And their outside backers can run. Their inside guys can run too, but they're box players. They tackle well, and their back end's got a ton of speed. So, and their specialists can hurt you at any point. I don't know if you call him the backup running back, but he's very fast, very explosive. In the kick return game, they've moved towards him in the kick return game. And then you've got, JD doing a little bit more of the punt return. So very dangerous. And Martinez is a tremendous leader. You can see it. He's tough and he can lead.
Now that you get so many numbers and every last probability from the analytics, how has that over time affected your philosophy and as you've seen around other coaches in terms of fourth and short situations?
Yeah, analytics are a part of our game now. There's no getting around them. We use 78%, right? When you're talking about ball security, when you're talking about tackling, when you're talking about yellow punt, when you're talking about explosive plays, percentages of winning games. I think one thing that analytics, it's hard is when you're the head coach making the decisions. You know your team better than anybody. the statistics are statistics for a reason. That's kind of an average of everybody. Well, we're not everybody. We're us. So the human element has to be added to that statistical information. I'm huge in the statistical part. We have books upon books each week that come out to me through our quality control that give me stats, percentages, numbers. But there are times where it depends if you trust your team or not. You go 4th and 1 and you go for it. You fake a punt, you trust them to get it done. If it's 4th and 5 like we did against Ohio State, I felt like, we had an opportunity to pin them down or do whatever, or kick a field goal at that particular time. We had to make it a 1-score game. So maybe the chances in your own zone to go for it, I'm not sure what the stats say, but what the statistical information says might not necessarily match up to the human element. And then when they actually match, that's when you can make those decisions.
You guys make coaches more aggressive in valuing possession over even field position?
I think it's all based on the coach's personality, and I think it's all based on the knowledge he has of his team, what his team can do and what his team can't do. He's the only one that really knows that. The opponent really doesn't know all that information. You might know the stat part, but field position is really important to me. Time of possession and field position have always been very important to me. Now, part of that is part of a deception. That's why you fake things at times. But those are two things that have always been important to our program and our culture of how we've ran our offense and how we built our defense and how we've handled special teams. But I'd like to go for on 4 downs. I mean, I'd like to do that more than not. But 4th and 9 is way different than 4th and 1, and depending on where you are on the field.
What does the defense need to change this week to stop the pass?
Well, again, when you look at where we're at, I mean, you have every team's got strengths and you have weaknesses. And I'm not saying that's a weakness. That's somewhere we've got to continue to get better. But when you don't have Terrell Smith, right, and you don't have Antoine Winfield Jr., we all talked beginning of the year saying we have guys at the top that have played that are our best players, and then behind them are going to be very youthful and very inexperienced players where there's even going to be a lot of depth issues. And I even said at the beginning, I said, if we can stay healthy in the secondary, we got a chance to do some things on defense. If we can gain experience fast with our young people and they're ready to play, we're going to be more successful if our young guys are really ready to play back there. Terrell Smith is right now, and Howden would probably be the 2 young guys that are in there. Now you throw in Coney Durr and you throw in Keandre Thomas. They've got to step up and be able to fill those gaps of the people who aren't going to play. But I think our front seven's playing really well. We played a top 20 team. We played a top 2 team. And Maryland, beat us pretty good when it came down to the run part. So we were able to stop the run. But again, you've got to focus on what is our game plan. If not to sit there and say, if you're going to get beat, how are you going to get beat? But what do we have to do to make sure we're always in the game? And then you build your game plan, you start there, and then you continue to build around that. But again, we've got to be better at playing longer on the back end. And when you do that, you got a chance. We've given up some big plays back there, whether it's been a drop coverage or somebody dropped their guy. We can't do that. So
We'll take one more, Chip. Go ahead.
BJ, with a young quarterback, I assume there's a million things swirling around his mind on game day. In your experience, what part of the process does being able to manipulate the secondary with his eyes?
Yeah.
Is that later on in the process?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chip, is because we see exactly what you see. You're seeing the right things in terms of using your eyes, but there's a comfort level of that. Okay, especially when you're a young quarterback and you haven't played a lot, and a lot of the things you're doing it for the first time, right? And so, you want to make sure that guy's open before I throw it. And so even if his head's there, his eyes could be still over here, but he's got to be able to continue to look people off. There's times where he didn't need to look people off. The throw he makes at the last intercept, there's no need. The safety's rolling the other way. The problem is there was too much trajectory to the football. It wasn't his eyes because he's looking this way. The safety's moving the opposite way. He wasn't moving that. Now, could he have quickly moved to one side and then came back? Would have held it an extra second? Yes. But that wasn't the issue. The ball flight was the issue on that one. But again, I think he does a good job of going through his reads. I actually thought he did a really nice job of pulling the ball down and going. When he didn't, he knew that there was a certain coverage that would put us in a problem. He saw it, tucked it, ran it. That's a huge step for that young man. Remember, this is just these little steps that he's making. And some of the big things over time he's going to correct. But the small things about using your eyes, move defenders, pull things down and run when you don't have it, throw it away, get out of the pocket, protect the football. Those are things that you want to see every single week continue to improve in a very positive way. And, I'm proud of his progress. We've got to be better, But when you're playing, you have 2 freshmen back there, you're coaching a lot. And that's why every time he comes off, I'm there to meet him because we're talking about something. It's not like, hey, what was that for? It's not, what'd you see? Let's talk about through the series. Let's talk about something that's a teaching moment at that point that he'll be able to take and learn, because most of the time, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. Once you tell him something, once you coach him on something, he's very coachable where he does it. And that's what you see, and that's why he's a starter, because he can do that. But he's learning a lot. He's putting a lot in his bank. And, we're getting better as a football team, and that's good to see. Appreciate it, guys. Row the boat. Sky, go.